Hello Guardians, it is Ebontis here. I'm getting this video out a day later after weekly reset. Just had some stuff happen yesterday, so I didn't get around to it. But wanted to reach out to you guys. It is September 30th. Weekly reset was yesterday, September 29th. And we have 6 weeks to go officially until launch of Beyond Light. So there are a couple things I wanted to cover with you guys, mostly what's going on this week, and a couple things you might want to really start keeping an eye on when it comes to just the time frame we're dealing with, if there are certain things you're trying to make sure you knock out. So the first thing this week, of course, is we've got Iron Banner. It is live, so if you are still working on leveling up characters, if you're jumping back into the game, it's a good way to get some powerful gear. And then, of course, if you jump into the tower, you've also got the Bounties as well, which are going to offer you pinnacle gear. If you are leveling up a character, especially if you are close to that 1050 rank of the 1050 power level, my advice is do just about everything you can to try and get as close to 1050 as possible. Hold on to those bounties for a little bit, because then if you get to 1050, those pinnacles are actually going to give you +2s. So if you actually do hit that 1050 power cap, and by that, you can see right here, this powerful gear tier 1. Anything that says powerful gear will take you all the way up to 1050. But those bounties from shacks that are going to give you the pinnacles, those would actually drop at 1052. So they give you just that little bit extra if you're getting close. Now, if you're like 950 right now, yeah, you could probably turn those in at some point and see if you get like a bigger boost. But again, still try and knock out your powerful stuff before you do your pinnacle stuff. That's always going to at least be the more efficient option if you're still trying to level, or if you're going for that pinnacle grind still at all. But either way, Iron Banner is still a good place to level and a good place to get some of those, enhanced mods and a decent place for gear that has good rolls on it. So if you are looking for some place to spend your time this week, Iron Banner is definitely always a good place when it's here if you're looking to set yourself up for the future. All right, as we are about 6 weeks out from the end of the season, some people are getting to the point where with the delay of the season, we know things got pushed out, and the interference was supposed to wrap up this sequence where we go talk to, do the means to an end quest, run through the mission, and talk to Eris at the end. Unfortunately, we've got a kind of a lull. We've got a gap, and as the end of this quest sequence, like the lore book and everything, is probably going to how we wrap up the season, tie into Beyond Light, and all of that connection is going to happen. They don't want to do that with like 6 or 8 weeks in the season to go, so I think they've pushed that out to basically the very end of the season. Now, we know Festival of the Lost is coming next week. Actually, it's going to start on October 6th. It goes for 4 weeks, October 6th to November 3rd. And then the actual Beyond Light expansion will launch November 10th. So there's a week in there that basically has nothing planned. Now, interference may finish in that final week. I have a guess they might do it 1 week before, just to make sure and give people kind of that 1 week buffer. Either way, if you've gotten all you can from interference, you don't need to keep repeating these every week. Now, you do get pinnacle gear from it, so if you're trying to level up, it's still a decent way to get those like gear pieces and a pinnacle drop. So, it is kind of a guaranteed way. You just got to put in the grind and the time, as opposed to, trying to find a group for a raid. So if you are looking for pinnacle gear drops, it is one at least that you'll get. And Iron Banner's here, so if you're looking for pinnacle gear, don't forget about those. But if you're just trying to like see if you can finish out the lore, I think the community is kind of at the understanding this is going to be the end of the season, probably last couple of weeks. So we'll have Festival of the Lost, but I still don't even think interference is going to be finished until that second to last week. So like if November 3rd is the final week, bump it back a week. Right before that is probably when I would start checking back on this thing again. And believe me, around that time, probably even 3 weeks out, I'm going to start checking to see when we get to finish this thing up. I will let you guys know, so stay tuned to the channel for that one. Now, as you guys know, there are 6 weeks left. I've said that a couple times. So if there are certain things you're working on, whether it's stuff from the Leviathan raids or anything of that nature from content that is leaving, you only have so much time left to do that. Now, there's a couple pieces, whether it be lore books and things for titles that are kind of the time frame. If you haven't started them, those time frames have come and gone. But there is one more thing. If you guys haven't started it yet, you still do have time to finish, and that is actually the Worldline Catalyst. Now, you do need to have the sword first, so that's one piece. But the way the Worldline sword, it's the sword that you get from Mars, and the way the Catalyst works is you have to go through Escalation Protocol, and you have to do damage with the sword to each of the 5 bosses. So you have to get all the way to rank 7, and then the actual boss that spawns at the end, you have to do damage to each one of them. So you have to do it over the course of 5 weeks. There are 5 bosses. You have 6 weeks left in the season, so you can start it either this week or next week. But if you don't start it next week, you will not be able to finish this thing before Mars leaves. So if you want to get the Worldline Zero Catalyst, if this is just one of those things on your checkbox, make sure and get that started probably now, so you actually have enough weeks to complete it. Because if you don't start it this week or next week, you are not going to have enough time if you're starting from scratch. So if you don't have the sword, go look up a guide on how to get it. There's plenty of them out there, and start working on, the escalation protocol runs, one each week, and doing damage with this sword, so you can start getting this completion done, because it takes you a full 5 weeks. If you haven't finished it, you won't be able to. Once, at 2 weeks from now, you won't be able to get this thing before it leaves the game. Another reminder, as you guys are going through, remember your season pass, your exotic engrams, things like that. Some of this stuff could be floating in here. I tend to save my exotic engrams for a little bit later on, pull them between characters, see where I need them. But there are certain things like your armor sets. Don't forget, come the very end of the season. Again, this is a piece of armor. It's going to be infusible for like 3 more seasons, so we're going to get through 11, 12, 13, and 14. You're going to be able to use this armor, and it's coming with a decent stat roll. Now, to my bummer, at least, we know the armor is not going to get a vast update, so this armor should still be mostly functional for a while. And the fact that the armor that comes from the Season Pass, if you've got the Season Pass, is going to have a pretty decently high stat roll on it. If nothing else, this is a place to make sure you get it. So if you are grinding out your Season Pass, maybe you don't get all the way to the end, getting these armor pieces, at least 1 set per character, and you can get, a set per character, which is nice. You can go to all 3 characters and pick them up. You can have a decent set of armor for every character going into the next season. So don't forget about these as well. Final thing is just stuff in the store. As we get closer to Beyond Light, there may be some exotics that may not come through rotation, or things are going to come and go from the store. So I just want to cover what's in the store for you guys this week, as there's not a whole lot else going on. We got Iron Banner. You can be working on catalysts and triumphs and, raids and other stuff that you may have missed. But other than that, right now we are in kind of the downtime. And even Festival of Lost, that does start next week, I don't have high expectations for it. There is some cool Eververse stuff coming from that. Sorry, can't talk. But overall, I would say there's not a lot going on. So this is the time where you figure out, hey, if there's another game in your backlog, go try that one. But checking into Eververse, there may be some cool stuff that you're just hoping comes through. So I do want to review it for you guys so you know what's here. You've got the sad trombone emote. If you don't have this thing before, it's actually one of the few that makes sound, so it is actually a fairly cool emote. If you don't have a ton, and you got some decent amount of bright dust, might be worth going for that one. You've got the Adonis shell, which is, for one, fairly cool looking shell, generally. But it is one of the shells that does have guiding light. If you don't have a ghost shell that has guiding light, you're probably going to want to get this. Now, I will throw a giant caveat in there. If you're working on stuff this season, that's probably an important thing to make sure you have experience, especially if you're, jumping in the game, you're trying to level up. Come next season when Beyond Light launches, ghosts are going to be working very differently. We're going to have mods that help you with experience, so they are going to change. So if you do spend money on a ghost shell, especially if you purchase one, say like the gyro shell, remember, ghosts are going to be mostly a cosmetic shell, and then you're going to have mods that you can put into them. They're going to be kind of a universal cosmetic skin. You can buy them if you want to, get them with Eververse dust, but the mods themselves are going to be ones that all ghosts are going to have access to. See, if you have a couple ghosts that you like, remember, don't spend like your money or your bright dust on stuff that is going to mostly turn into a shell, because when you come down here, instead of just these cosmetic mods like, the ornament and stuff like that, you're going to have mod sockets where you put in like an XP buff and, a couple other things. I forget what they all are off the top of my head, and all ghosts are going to have that. So before you're like, oh, I need this guiding light ghost because I don't have one before. If you're trying to level up right now, you got some bright dust to spend, you could. If you want to spend 300 silver on this one over here because it looks cool, reminds you of Season of Opulence, and the fact that you have guiding light, yeah, maybe a good one to have for 6 weeks if you're jumping back into the game trying to catch up. But just a reminder, the ghosts that you purchase right now are going to function differently come Beyond Light, so don't expect that guiding light to be a holdover, because the mods are going to be across all of them, which will be good, but you don't need like 10 different ghost shells. So big stuff you've got there. Of course, you got your quick mods here, the sad trombone, the Adonis shell. You've got the Harpy's Cry, which is kind of like a harpy transmat effect. And then apparently I can't do this well, popping out of my inventory. And you got the Sunrise Warrior. So if this is a shader you like, and if pink is your thing, this is like a good shader for you. For silver purchases, you've got the Big Blind. This is going to be Ace of Spades ornament. So if you don't have one and you like that gun, it's kind of the one for you. A couple ghost shells. This one is on sale. So if you are looking for one with guiding light and you want to spend like, get a small package of silver, this one's like 300 silver. It's pretty cheap. If you want a transmat effect, Up in Smoke, you got Give Dap. So you got kind of a questionably awkward multiplayer emote there. And of course the feline fancy for those of you from the world of Austin Powers and such. This is kind of your jam also for James Bond as well. But your cat emote, petting it, it's kind of ridiculous. So that's on the front page. And then for Bright Dust as well over here, we've got the All Mine. Just kind of the collection of being greedy and kind of, you know, you guys get the idea. It's emotes as opposed to probably gold and other things, and just kind of a happy little jam. You've got the Victory Shout. This one's pretty cheap, just a big old shout. Just kind of hell yeah. We've got the Pallbearer ship. And this is all for Bright Dust, by the way, on this page. So a very unique looking ship as well. You know, kind of take shaders in a unique way. So it depends. I would look through shaders, see if there's some that you like. Some ships take shaders better than others. Like that actually looks kind of cool. So some take ships better than others, but it's nice to have some that are uniquely shaped. Got the Cosmos Shell. This one is Guiding Light and Omni Telemetry. All this stuff is going to change come Beyond Light, but if you like the way this thing looks, it's actually a pretty cool shell. And again, it's for Bright Dust. So again, if you've got the Bright Dust, this is a way to get Guiding Light for your next 6 weeks if you don't have one like that. The ornament, we've got the Hallowfire Heart. Now, if you're on different classes, you may have a different ornament. So I'm just on my Titan. This is the one I've got. It is a really cool one. I'm really debating on purchasing that because Hallowfire looks really cool. And this gives it a completely different look as opposed to that fire in the stomach. We've got the Vigilance Wing ornament here as well. Vigilance Wing has some of the coolest ornaments that make it look completely different. So always digging those. Finally, the Moonbound Projection. If you're missing any of the shaders for this season as well, I really wish they would actually change the shader system. But you got Midnight Talos. This is almost going to give you like a gold effect. So if you kind of haven't done that many raids in the Leviathan, but you like the gold effect, that's a good way to kind of cheat your way in there. You got Nebula Rose, so very much your kind of light and purple. Buffer Overflow, very much your red undertones, and then the Temperature Wash. Pretty light and clean there. I know the glows are throwing it off, so probably doesn't do the best for you. Vex Invasion for a Transmat effect. Got the Blind Clutch Transmat effect. And then, of course, the Daito Capsule Entrance. It's kind of futuristic, all coming from Prophecy Dungeon. That's pretty much it for the week, guys. It is, again, a light week, so just wanted to kind of cover some of the things. I definitely wanted to point out Worldline 0. I will be pointing that again next week, because after next week, if I look at a calendar real quick, so next week is going to be the 6th, the week of the 6th. After October 12th, you will not be able to finish Worldline 0 in time. So keep that one in mind. So you got Iron Banner. Work on all the stuff that you guys need to. You guys can find me on Twitch and Twitter. It's Ebontis on both. Right here on YouTube. If you're new to the channel, I'm going to be covering stuff like Godfall and Outriders and a bunch of stuff with like PS5 and all the new consoles. But of course, you guys know Destiny is my home jam. So that stuff will always be coming to the channel. So if you're new, hit that sub button, hit that alert bell, and that'll hopefully get my content to you through all of the world of the YouTube algorithms. Otherwise, you can find me on everywhere else. It's Ebontis everywhere, and I'll see you soon.